Ten of Swords X-Men event is off to a good start with creation number 1. In this book, a full 72 pages, most of which is glorious, beautiful art by my favorite team in comics, Larraz and Gracia, right now. So Tini Howard and Jonathan Hickman are both collaborating on this writing. We have Pepe Larraz doing the art, Marte Gracia on colors, Clayton Cowles on letters, Tom Muller doing design. I am so happy to have Larraz and Gracia back together again. Because of this, it feels so much like House of X. They offer a dark tone and deep visuals in exactly the same way that I believe this book needed. So much to enjoy about the way that things unfold in this book. It feels really natural and fluid. The pacing was good. It starts out at a slow pace, being probably a little bit purposeful in that regard, and then picking up slowly toward the end and keeping us glued with our eyes to the pages with this climactic ending. I will say, before I get started talking about this book, hey, it feels very important to at least have read X-Men 12, and pretty important to have read Excalibur 12 also. There was a lot revealed about Apocalypse and a lot revealed about the history of Amenth and Krakoa. So both of these books set the stage for what you're going to read in this event. I would check them out. And also, there's so many spoilers for everything that happens in all 3 of these books in my videos. So if you haven't read these first, I would hop on down to your local comic shop, pick those books up, and then come watch my videos. Before we get started, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. I am going to be covering this entire Ten of Swords event. I am really looking forward to it. Anything based on tarot, magic, and the X-Men, count me in. I am on board. At the start, we see the dark forces of Amenth making their way to the last watchtower before reaching the Starlight Citadel. The 4 horsemen, they're leading the charge, saying that they will litter the path to Krakoa with the bodies of all who stand against them. A herald rushes away on a flying creature to warn Saturnyne of the coming armies, only to be shot down by the warriors of Amenth. Mutant kind has a new home, Krakoa, an island where the past is left behind and the future is free from fear. From life-saving medications to the miracle of resurrection, the Krakoan nation represents promise and possibility for its people. We see Saturnyne's people, these new characters, Cadius Quo, Rael, Cinerosen Temple, they're going through a portal, and it looks like they're harvesting a star from this other land. They're convincing it to come with them. They're saying this isn't the end, this is just the next chapter in a new journey. Isn't that so familiar of what we tell people when they die? We are also reminded that Saturnyne's Captain Britain force is no longer guarding the Starlight Citadel, that with the Citadel itself, it's open to attack. And that's why Saturnyne has taken up residence there to protect the gates to the other worlds that are within. We find out later that she is absolutely a force to be reckoned with, very capable of defending the Citadel. Just as in the preview pages from Free Comic Book Day, we see these tarot cards. They unfold in that same way that they did there. Judgment, 4 of Wands, the Hanged Man, 8 of Cups, and 10 of Swords. I would like to say this. I am planning on creating a video that goes into deep depth on these tarot cards, what they mean in succession to each other, because I want to say this. Tarot is absolutely just another way to tell a story. I've read a few books about tarot and storytelling, and I find it fascinating. If you remember the hero's journey in storytelling and writing, Star Wars is a movie that is set with that exact same kind of writing. And so the Greater Arcana, the very first few cards of the deck of tarot, it absolutely tells the story of the hero and his journey. And so I want to tell that story in a video coming up. I hope you'll subscribe and hit the bell so you will hear that video as well. This is what I like. This white page, we find out that the mutant tarot draws the exact tarot cards as Saturnyne in the same order. And she draws them again, and then she draws them again, and her cousin draws the same spread. So in the white page, we see a little bit more commentary on the next one about this reading, which is a little bit different than Saturnyne's thoughts on the cards. That's the same thing with tarot when it comes down to it. Everyone has a different perspective on the cards, and a lot of different speculation about this event in X-Men can be made from all of this, just like Saturnyne's commentary. So I want to dive into that in detail in another video and focus on that completely. The summoner bursts through the external gate with Banshee in his arms. Banshee is unconscious and dying and is taken to the healer with haste. Apocalypse asks what happened. The summoner tells him that they were ambushed on Otherworld on the way to Araco. He tells him that there is an army on the march and there's a war underway. Apocalypse and his grandson go to bring this information before the Quiet Council. And I really like this scene. It's well written. Apocalypse is telling them that we opened a permanent gate to join Otherworld to Krakoa. Magneto says, "We" is a generous way of putting it, Apocalypse, as there is no we. You didn't ask anyone if you could do it. You just did, and it may very well have cost mutant lives to do so. Of course, Magneto is right here. Apparently, they don't know that Apocalypse had to kill 4 immortal externals to open the gateway. But this is where it gets interesting. Xavier asks Cypher to talk to the island, and Krakoa says that it acknowledges and accepts the gift of the external gate. Apocalypse returns his thanks to the island for refuge and providence. This again, it speaks to the communion that Apocalypse and Krakoa seem to have. It's a communion that has always been very uneasy to Wolverine, which has always raised questions in me as well. If you look at Wolverine and his animalistic nature, he's in tune with his deeper self, just like animals are. And what are the intentions of Apocalypse and the island together? I often think this story is going into a direction where Apocalypse and Krakoa may not have all of mutants' best interests in heart. We actually discover that as time moves forward. Apocalypse provides a quick history to the council as to the serious nature of the threat, and his grandson also tells them his account of what transpired with Banshee and Unus and him in Otherworld. The council is unhappy that this gateway is open and it can't be shut. It's a problem because it's open from the other end also, and they think that anyone can use the gates, not just mutants. That leaves them vulnerable to attack. The council takes a vote, and the majority votes to shut down the gate. Krakoa says, "You need to understand, you are all guests here. Our coexistence is collaborative and wonderful. It's a union of shared interests, but I am the land, and the land is mine." This really does set down the foot, and it says, I'm in charge, and you're here, and I can remove you, or worse. Here's the part that really hit me hard. The leader, the father of all X-Men, Charles Xavier, says, "Please tell Krakoa that we apologize for speaking of his person in that way. We respect any decision he makes, of course." He asks of the island to please reconsider for everyone's safety and his. The island declines. Magneto asks Apocalypse if he expected this. Apocalypse says yes. After all, the island and I want the same thing. I, for one, want to know what that is. And this in itself says so much about kind of these ideas and theories that I've been considering, and a lot of other friends and YouTubers have been considering, about Apocalypse, about the island Krakoa, about Moira being in on kind of a secondary plot to some end that it simply hasn't been discovered yet. And knowing the long game that Hickman plays when he writes these stories, it may be something so much more complex that this simple theory that me and the rest of these comic book obsessed YouTubers have all been debating about. We shall see when the payoff happens. I, for one, am excited to find out. Apocalypse takes a team of volunteers into the external gate to begin a rescue and recon mission, gathering Beast and Siren, a summoner, and Havoc, Richter, Monet, and Rockslide. All together, they're going to go in and rescue Unis, and they're going to see what the forces are like that are approaching Krakoa. And this is where we see a softer side of Apocalypse, as he shows a more human side of himself. He's approaching his original 4 horsemen. They're his literal children. He sheds a tear and said that this is his regret, being gone from them. He asked them all how they survived all this time in the hellscape that they have been living in. They speak of the loss of their mother, Genesis to the Twilight Blade. And as Apocalypse says, I'm sorry. War says, regret is for the weak, and we were born strong. In that place, only the fit survive, and here we are. Would you like to know the one thing that kept us alive all those years? I'll tell you, it wasn't love. And War and the Summoner stab Apocalypse together and cut him down, killing him, achieving their revenge. The Summoner summons a sword from his body. I am the summoner of many things, most of all, lies. And knowing the weakness of Rockslide, he slices him in half and decimates his energy body held within the hard outer shell, essentially killing him as well. At this time, at the same time, we cut back to Krakoa. We're watching Cable and Rachel get inside the mind of Banshee, who is healing on this table. They're looking into his memories and discovering that the Summoner is the betrayer and was responsible for Unis's capture and Banshee's wounds. While they're inside of this vision, Saturnyne gives them a glimpse of an important element and tasks them with finding it. So Cable, as soon as they come out of it, Cable sets out to find Jean and Scott. And after Jean shows Scott this vision that Saturnyne gives them, Scott just simply knows exactly where to find this thing. Pretty good luck, a coincidence. Of course, I think it was the tarot cards that led Saturnyne to give them that vision to take to Scott and find this thing. Again, talking about this ally on Saturnyne, I feel like it's more of a thing like the enemy of my enemy is my friend. And Saturnyne, is fighting for the greater good, but has an agenda, just like everyone else here. Their own personal agenda, of course. They find the device. They realize it's on secondary power, it's powered down. Still unsure of what it is exactly, Cyclops says that it needs a power source strong enough to essentially boot it up. And Cable says, I have an idea. Back on Otherworld, Saturnyne shows her full power in force. It's time to show all who might wonder exactly who rules this land forever, constant and without question. She snaps her finger and freezes everyone there in front of her. And Monet is pissed. Saturnyne walks first over to the general of the Dark Army, the Horseman Death, and asks what made him think they could march into her lands. You think we answer to you, witch? She says, in this place, all answer to me. Her magic reaches into him and forces an answer. That it is the bearer of the Twilight Swords who sends them, and like so many others, they will come in their place if they fall in battle before claiming Krakoa. If they have to break millions of bodies, they will on the way into Krakoa. Saturnyne asks for Death to fight in a manner that they see fit, a formal challenge, a contest, and Death agrees that they will meet for battle in any arena. And this is the second time here that Saturnyne shows her power of precognition, as she's seen the signs and watched them come to pass. So if you remember in the past, and this is a part I love about this story and how it's unfolding, Mystique's wife, Destiny, not being allowed on the island because Destiny is a precog, Moira not allowing them to come to the island. I wonder if this will tie into the story. That's one of my favorite open plot threads from Hoxpox and the main X-Men series. So I would love to see more of Moira, Destiny, Magneto, all of this, Saturnyne, as we move forward into this Ten of Swords event. And Saturnyne lays down the rules. In 3 days' time, she will summon their champions of Arakko to duel the champions of Otherworld. With a smug smile, Saturnyne looks to the inhabitants of Krakoa to fill the spots in battle. Polaris realizes they really don't have a choice but to fight. Saturnyne concludes that it was all predestined. And with that, the swords are named by both sides. I'm not going to list them off, but this is the 10 of Swords, quite literally. And, other videos from YouTubers focus a lot more on the swords themselves. I liked a video by the Comic Book Herald. Again, it's a good channel, and he talks a little bit more about those swords. If you want to watch that, definitely delve into his videos. I like everything that he puts out. This last sequence is really cool and well written, and of course, well drawn. And I love the kind of surprise ending we have here. While Saturnyne is explaining the contest and discussing the battle to come, with a very put-off Monet in the background, we're going back and forth during this entire speech, and we're seeing the Summers family and what they're doing at that device, where Cable has lit up his energy sword, and he shoves it into the device. It says, core access, establishing bridge stable, station coming online. And as we turn to the weapon that Saturnyne, the Summers family, just found, this giant space station, Saturnyne says, raise your sword. This is, of course, setting the stage for more to come, but it's also introducing a new X-team called Sword, with a new book released by the writer Al Ewing, which, look, if this is anything like most of Al Ewing's writing, it's going to be a really well-written book. So, what's my impression of this event so far? It's good. It really started this event out with a bang. I have to say, I love anything magic related in comics. Some of my favorite titles from DC are always books of magic, Justice League Dark, Constantine. And so this is really the kind of thing that I enjoy. There are a full 21 chapters left in the Ten of Swords story, so I'm truly excited for the rest of this event. And again, I want to say, I wish it were a bit shorter of an event, maybe 10 issues, but hey, that's okay. I know that Marvel is doing longer events. I'm going to stick with this because of the content. This is up my alley. It's what I'm loving. Absolutely love the whole creative team for this book. Let's get into it. And hey, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. I'd love for you to join me to cover all the rest of Ten of Swords and all the videos and the commentary that I have to come about comic books, writing, and the comic book industry. Support your local comic shop. You are the gateway into comics.